Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Join me on today's video where I follow up on the review after the unboxing of this Watchdives WD1960s that I did a couple of days ago. Now this Watchdives is fantastic value for money. When I bought this, it was around £70 in the AliExpress 11/11 sale, and now I'm not too sure what the price is currently because they do fluctuate, but I can't imagine it's too far from that. But for that £70, I'd say this is probably the best watch you can buy. It's right up there with the really well-made Cadison watches. It's way better than Pagani design, and it's way better than a lot of other competitors in that same market. There's a lot of things that this watch does right. It's also a really great size, so in terms of specifications and dimensions, I'll put them up on screen for you guys to the left as I covered them already in the unboxing. And they've done some really good things. The addition of the Seiko VH31 hybrid quartz movement is going to allow them to keep this price relatively low, but what that also means is that it gives us, watch nerds, the ones that like that sweeping motion, something in the middle, right? You got a battery powered watch, good accuracy, you don't have to wind it, it's a pick up and go, but it does give you a little sweep. Now, as you guys know, Watchdives do collaborate with San Martin, and what I think that means, especially for this model and any upcoming models, that Watchdives possibly has access to San Martin's portfolio, which is why when they made this watch, the case definitely stands out to me as the same case used on the San Martin Ranger homage, albeit that was slightly bigger. That was a 38mm. However, I think the main thing, the bezel is more or less exactly the same. The sides of the case are also very similar, and what they've done is they've just downsized it. Now, what I can tell you in this review, the case finishing is awesome. Okay, so what they've done and what it looks like to me is they've put a lot more effort in the actual watch case, and then the bracelet they've took a couple of shortcuts on, which is perfectly understandable and something you can definitely live with. If you pay attention to that bezel, you'll find very smooth and very soft brushing around that rim, and then you've got that very thin polished highlight which goes around as it did on the San Martin version, then followed by a brushing towards the bottom. Now this level of detail, you don't really see this at this low price point because of course it does cost quite a bit of money, but they have executed it really well. Now turning the watch case to the side, you'll find this really nice satinized brushing, and I'm a huge fan of this, as I think most people are. And then we'll also find that very crisp and thin polished bevel which goes around the side of the case. Now for the most part the transitions are quite crisp, but if you take a look at just one or two corners, you'll find that they do lack slightly. So if you take a look at this edge in particular, you can see just that overrun there. See how that's not entirely crisp on that line? So in terms of QC, just one out of the three sides, it's just a little blurry, but I doubt it's something that you will look at this closely. Now, why I think they've paid more attention to the case than the bracelet, because there is a very fine sort of difference between the finishing on the end link and the finishing on the case. You can just see it varies in smoothness, whereas the case is a lot smoother, but the bracelet is smooth. There's just a very minute sort of difference. I don't know if you guys can see that, but in hand and in real life to the naked eye, you can just about make out there's a slight difference in the finishing. The case back is absolutely normal, nothing on there, so it's not worth really looking at. The end links, really good fit and finish. For £70, you cannot complain. The female end links are done perfectly. It just keeps that very compact lug to lug. And the crown size, while it's a bit small, it's around 6mm, it actually does function okay-ish. It is a little slim, so you do find your finger kind of rubbing against that bezel. Ideally you want something just a little thicker, even if the diameter is a bit smaller. You also got some signage on there, and with the VH31 and this dateless design, it does work because the VH31 does not have a date function, so that's another reason for them to use that movement, and it's a good choice in my opinion. It's way better than seeing a Seiko NH35 with a ghost position, so I like that decision they made. Now continuing with the bracelet, the links are finished really well. You can't really complain at all. You've got split pin construction, and a lot of the people would prefer split pins over pin and collar. Obviously you probably won't get screw pins at this price point. You do have a bit of flexibility in the bracelet. It's a standard sort of 3-link bracelet. Finish well, it is pretty comfortable, polished sides, and as far as these kind of bracelets at this price point go, it's one of the good ones. Clasp wise, it is a milled clasp, fold over, nicely finished, nice detailing on the back of the clasp, twin pushers, and you've got 5 micro adjustments, which is great because that allows you to size this watch pretty accurately. And yeah, overall I think the bracelet's very good, case is very good, Now looking at the dial a bit closer, you do have a couple of options available with this dial. Got a Fotina dial version which has printed hour markers as well as a printed logo. Then you also got a black version, and I'm not too sure if it's a matte black or it's a sunburst black, but that comes in either the choice of printed indices or applied indices. Then you've got this blue sunburst with the applied indices. Now I went with the applied indices version because when I looked at the San Martin, I didn't like the printed version. It just looked too bland, too boring, and this one does look much better. You've got nice crisp hour markers, nice numerals, polished hour markers. Now you've also got that printed Watchdives logo. Now I don't know how you guys feel about that. I know there's somebody in the comment section going to say, it should be applied, but then they are very similar to San Martin, and I think that's the issue with logos of this nature, where from a distance you won't tell if it's a San Martin or a Watchdives. But definitely perhaps applying it, keeping in line with the hour markers. What I really don't like though is that 100 meters there. I've said it before with San Martin, they use a very basic font. I believe if you're going to put the water resistance there, that should have been much smaller, somewhat in the background, because it stands out a little too much. And if anything, I would have gone with quartz, right, rather than 100 meters, because that 100 meters is not significant to this watch. It's not a diver, so it doesn't need that on there, in my opinion. Aside from that, handset is flat, it is basic, but it's actually finished to a good degree. I can't see any kind of defects with the naked eye. You've got a nice seconds hand. That red is quite vibrant, it pops on that dial, and in terms of length of the handset is proportional. Now lume on this watch is amazing. It's BGW9. It's very similar to San Martin, and the reason I say very similar is because in terms of the initial burst, it's the same. It's got great longevity, but I haven't tested it, minute for minute, hour for hour against the San Martin, but it's impressive at this price point as well and above. Now on wrist, you really can't fault the smaller size that they went for. It does fit good, it doesn't feel overly small. It's got a well-rounded weight of around 110 grams, which is well balanced on the bracelet. It sits pretty central in the wrist. If you do like smaller watches, my wrist size is 6.5 inches, and this is spot on for my wrist size, and it's got a really good presence. With this dial color, it does pop. That little bit of red does stand out nicely, and that VH31 also gives you that impression of an automatic watch, but it's a pick up and go, which is what I think for efficiency, what a lot of people also want. Now there's only one other observation that I've noticed, and that's the finishing on the clasp. So particularly this area of the clasp, it's quite unfinished, it is quite sharp. So as you are taking this on and off, it does scuff over your wrist, and in hand you can feel it is a bit sharp on there. But at this price point, again guys, you do get missed areas like this. Of course we looked at the little bit of finishing on there, which wasn't quite precise. But we shouldn't expect too much as well. I think for 70 quid, they have done amazingly well. The 1-2 points I mentioned about the physical aspects not being quite right, they're very minor points. I think about the text, the design of it, that's subjective. Everyone has a different opinion. I definitely think they should get rid of that 100 meters. It's far too big against the logo on the dial, and it stands out a bit too much. And yeah, if you look at it a bit close, it does become an eyesore. So if they kind of fix that, or just make it say quartz in some very faint text, that would make this watch look much better. But as I said at the start of the video, as it stands for £70, it's probably one of the best watches you can pick up on AliExpress, and it will beat quite a lot of watches out there. So that's it from me today, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.